All right, we're getting real close here on our poster. We've got our text in, we've got the image of the artist, the content are the event details. So we're really close. Obviously, we need to clean it up a little bit and now add our polish to it to make it look like we want it to look. This is where it can be a giant time suck. You could spend hours on this thing, or you could just call it good and the details are on there and we know who it is and we're good to go. But let's go ahead and push this a little bit further. Let's learn a few more things that we can do in Photoshop and we'll go from there. Again, we're going to blitz through this pretty quick, and you can take as much time as you want with these assets to make something creative that you love. So let's go ahead and think about this text. What do we want to do with it? We've got a couple issues here. One is it's a lot of text, right? And it's dark, so it doesn't fit well over his shirt. We need to find a way to either put it in an enclosure or bump the contrast or do something to where this functions, form and function, right? It might look cool, but will people actually show up to the venue because they can see the text? The other issue I see here is the photo we had, his head was already cropped to the top, so I can't really pull him down without his head looking like it's been chopped on top, and that leaves us with two options down here. So he's not quite big enough to fill this image, so I can either, one, Command T to get my free transform tool and just scale him up. I could skew it, which obviously looks terrible, so hold on that shift key, and just enough just to make him just a little bit bigger that he goes the full width of the image. That could be the best solution, especially if we start putting our type, filling our type down here so it fits around his arm. That might be a cool way to go about it, right? That fits really nice around the shoulder. I could keep pushing the details, or maybe make this second chunk a little bit smaller. I'll hit Command X to cut that. And what that does, it cuts it and also copies it to your clipboard. So now if I click once here and hit Command V, just that address is down here. So maybe, this is going to be a big poster. So if this is really an 11 by 17 and it's this big, that's still technically legible. If people want to see where it's at, they can see this and that's good to go, right? So maybe we're done. Maybe this is all we need for this poster, or let's push it a little bit further. So another way we could do, let's say that we didn't want to make it that much bigger and he's going to be this short. So now what we need to do is find something to put over the top. So we could get our shape tool, hit the letter U. So I'm just going to draw a rectangle. It's going to fill with black currently, or I could match my design a little better, hit the I to get the eyedropper tool and select that lighter gray from his shirt. And now when I hit the letter U, it pulls in that lighter gray color. I'll click and drag to get my rectangle. I'm going to zoom in a little bit so I can see this a little better. Okay, and now I'm just hit Command T to drag this right where I want it to go, and it just needs to be big enough to hide his arm. Well, one of two things, either big enough to hide this gap down here, or maybe a little bit bigger if we decide we want to put our text. It's kind of tough to see my design right here on this gray background, so here's a tip for Photoshop. I can right click on this canvas and make it a different color if you need to see your image a little bit better. Okay, so maybe we grab this this text and we put it in line. So I'm gonna hit space and then I'll hit shift and the pipe divider, it's right below your delete key or right above your return key. Hit space, hit delete to bring that other line up next to itself. So there's that little pipe divider I put in there. Maybe I'll add another space between those so it's easier to see. Over here I'll click, double space, hit that pipe divider, double space, hit the delete to bring the text. Okay, so now it's all up in one line. I can do a couple things. With this text tool selected, I can hit Command Delete to fill it with that background white. Or I could have double or triple clicked in here and selected a color from up here. Or I can hover anywhere in the image and select the background. So if we wanted to match this current purple color, we could do that. I'm just going to hit Command Delete to fill it with that white text. So here, here's another option. Maybe it's just super simple. We've got our date, time. There we go. And then we've got our information down here. Maybe we need to add a web address or something else down to this information. And again, that could be a poster. You could be done there. Let's push this a little bit further though. Another option, maybe to make it more creative. I'm looking at his shoulder and it's kind of, let's see, if I were to, let's see real quick. I'll just draw a quick rectangle and I'll fill it with some bright obnoxious color so you can see it. Let's pretend you wanted to match that angle. I could, here's what I did. Command T, and then I hover down here and my cursor changes to that curved arrow, which means I can turn this. Okay, so I'm just kind of matching the angle of that shoulder. And that's another tip too. When you're designing things, look at the elements around you and see what things you can work in to create consistency. So now I'm going to get my direct selection tool right here. So I can grab these little anchor points. I'll click once. And here, this will be easier to see on his shirt. If I click once here, this one is solid, so I'm just selecting that one point. Or I can shift click multiple points and move those around, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little guy and the other one down here. Maybe, if it'll let me. There we go. And I'm just going to, oh, come on. Try it again. Click once, shift click over here. And I'm going to drag straight down to kind of create this cool little shape. And then I'm going to hit Command T. I'm going to zoom way the heck out and zoom it up or scale it up a little bit. And again, I'm just trying to match the angle of his shirt. I'll bring it down just enough to where it covers that arm, or maybe to where it feels good on the side as far as good balance. I'll turn off that other layer. And so here's another thing we could do. We could stack the text over here. And we could bring this information down here. I'll highlight it all and I'll align it to the right. And I don't like this angle against this angle, so maybe what I'll do is I'll bring the time up on this line. Okay, and now this angle and this angle match, and that's starting to feel pretty good. And then we can do the same thing to this text here. So you can see we could endlessly start to refine things, and this is how you work. You just start to play with things and see what you like. And I'm going to align this to the right. And something else to pay attention to is what we would call guides, or the grid. So, you know, if things aren't quite lined up right, maybe that's on purpose, maybe that's a choice, but whenever possible, pay attention to the other elements on your page. In this case, I can click right, if you don't see the ruler, hit Command R or go to View and turn on your rulers. Okay, and now what I can do is pull down a guide. I'll hold down Alt, and now I change it from a horizontal guide to a vertical guide. All right, and now I can make sure that my text and all my assets line up in the same spot. So just little tricks like this will set you apart from the other designers as far as keeping things in line. All right, so we're playing with this layout a little bit, and you can see how you can start to work with the layout. In the next lesson, what we're going to do now is try some different background elements, maybe try some brushes and textures to finish this thing off.